Hey guys, we're live. Sorry I'm a few minutes late here, just trying to get all my tech set up. So hopefully everyone's having a great start to your week. I don't know if you're in the States, if you're dealing with all this crazy snow we've got. I'm in Chicago. It's like taller than my dog. We went out this morning and it was like he was buried. So hopefully you guys aren't all, there he is. Hopefully you guys aren't all dealing with that. But if you are, at least you're inside where it's warm right now. So let's get to your questions. So what we're going to do is Cresta, as usual, she's my community manager. She's inside of the chat and she's going to be taking your questions and putting them into a Google Doc for me. So I'm not going to be able to see like every single thing as it comes through, but yeah, so where are people coming in from though? I just kind of wanted, before we get started, and by the way, if you're watching this later as a replay, maybe just skip a minute into it or something, but yeah, where are people coming in from? Want to see where all the action's happening. Let's see. Yeah, I'll see as people come in. But anyway, I guess we'll just get to the questions. Don't want to hold you guys up. So, okay, so the first one is from Riddick Mondal. And he says, how do you find small business owners and identify their problems? So that's a really big question. Basically, oh, and we got a Ross Realty Group from SoCal, Oscar from Iowa, Mike from Connecticut, Barry from Toronto, and then Party Favor Event Rentals from Akron, and Reed from Texas. Awesome. We got a good group from everywhere. All right, so how to find small business owners and identify their problems. I assume maybe that means you're a marketer as well. So basically, it's you got to ask. Like that's the biggest thing. Like you need to talk to your actual clients and figure out what's going on with them that you can help them out with. It's better to ask than to actually make something up. A lot of people do that. They just kind of make up what they think their customers are experiencing. But honestly, I don't have a great answer to that because it's a huge question. So you just got to ask. Another thing you can do is find businesses like yours on Yelp or review sites and go through there. Even sometimes you can even go on Amazon and find like a how-to book in your industry and see the kinds of things that people are saying in their reviews. Typically the 1-star reviews are gold for this. So see what their problems are, see how other people aren't meeting those problems head on, and that can inform your messaging quite a bit. All right, moving right along, we've got from Oscar Valley. I think hopefully I'm pronouncing that name right. Oscar says, do you have any tips or tricks for an effective pricing page? Yeah, absolutely. So I do have a whole video on that if you want to go back and look at that. But basically, I always recommend having a pricing page. Such a missed opportunity not to. Even if you don't think you can list prices, that is okay. Well, I'm not necessarily talking about a price list. What I'm talking about is just letting people know what they can expect, because if they're looking for a service business like yours, or they're looking for a product like yours, anything, they're looking for pricing. That's kind of one of the first questions people have. So what you need to do is address, if you can't spell out actual prices, which most people can't. Most people kind of go on like that bidding structure of like, we got to do a consultation, we got to customize something for you. But what you can do is do starting at prices or ballpark ranges. And what I like to do generally is kind of break that into 3 things. So either you've got 3 set packages, like a good, better, best model, or you at least have good, better, best ranges. And you would say something like, this service package, you can expect this level of service, you can expect these things, and you can expect to pay between $1,000 and $4,000. I know that's a big range, but in a lot of cases that does answer the question. Because sometimes people are going to your website, they don't know if you're charged $200 or $5,000. So if you can narrow it as much as you can narrow it down to, the better. And then within that, if you can say something like, this ranges between 1 and 4,000, but most of our clients tend to pay somewhere right around 2,500. And then maybe say what factors drive the price up or down. And I think that's kind of your best bet. And just think about it, what works best, starting at ballpark ranges or actual prices. And if you do price like actual hard prices, this is important to know. Don't overwhelm people with an exhaustive price list, right? Like, I get if you're like, I always think of like the spa for some reason when I think of that price list. They've got all the different facials, all the different massages, and sometimes you do need that. But if anytime you can simplify things into 3 choices, for some reason that's like the magic number. But I get if you offer like spa services or if you're a salon, that kind of thing, you don't want to eliminate all your offerings. So I get it. Okay. Cool. Moving right along to this one is from Rami Alnazer. Hey Rami, he says, where should a Mexican restaurant get its backlinks? Yeah, so basically, here's the thing about restaurants that I'll say. I would always, this is where I kind of come down on your website isn't as important. It is important because people are going to want to go there when they're in that second stage of their research. But generally speaking, people go to Yelp for these kinds of things, for restaurants. I know I do. I'm sure the overwhelming majority of people look up restaurants on those other kinds of apps. So I would really do most of your hard work there. And then that's where you'll get your links from, places like that, like directory sites, neighborhood sites, citywide sites, directories, those kind of things. So, and if all else fails and you feel like you really want some of that extra SEO power and you feel like, because here's the other thing too, like you could be found in the map listings as a restaurant too. So I would generally go to some place like the Hoth or a similar service who you just pay a monthly fee and they'll create some backlinks for you. That way you don't have to worry about it. Because honestly, there are better things you can be doing with your time than creating backlinks, I swear to God. So that's one of those tedious things that I never recommend any small business owner doing themselves, just because it's tedious and there's people you can pay not a lot of money to do that for you. So for what it's worth. All right. What do we got next? This next one is from Random Dude. Hey, Random Dude. He says, is there something that you could do weekly or daily on your website to help with SEO? And it's his background. He provides entertainment services for parties and events. So is there something you could do weekly or daily on your website to help with SEO? Yeah, so what I would definitely recommend is some kind of content marketing happening in the background at all times. So whether that's a series of videos, like that's kind of what I do. I also do a podcast now, so you could do a podcast, you could do video, you could do just a weekly blog post where you basically think of what are the questions people are trying to get answered in your niche, and you create a new piece of content for it. That is definitely the best thing you can do. And I'll say video and podcasts are harder to do than writing just written content, because you have to get in front of the camera, in front of the mic or whatever, and it can be scary for people, but it creates such a bond with people that you can't create with a blog post alone. And then you're going to become like the no-brainer for them to want to hire when it comes time to doing that. So I'm a big fan of weekly unique content. So if you can do video or podcast, absolutely go for it. Okay, next we have from Rye, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right. Is there a way to keep SEO strength without visible changes? Is there a way to keep SEO strength without visible changes? Hold on. I'm getting something on my watch here. It looks like this is, I'm not sure what that is. Cresta, if you're trying to say something, if you have a message for me, Cresta, just go ahead and put it in the end of the document here. I'm not sure if that was you. Okay, so is there a way to keep SEO strength without visible changes? So you're saying you want to keep where you're at with your SEO right now, if you're not making any changes, one would think you are keeping your strength. So if you can clarify that question, because I'm not sure I'm understanding that, I'm sorry. Okay, and we'll get back to that later. Okay, so from Yard Dogs, hey guys, he says, what are your thoughts on the HubSpot platform and the upcoming Google local guaranteed ads? So I'm not too up on HubSpot, to be honest with you. It's like a really big, it's a really robust CRM. That much I know. I've not gotten my hands dirty with it yet, so I'm the wrong one to ask. But Google Local Guaranteed Ads, those are not upcoming. Those have been around for a while. Maybe they're coming to where you are, but my thoughts on them, I love them. If anyone is unaware of what these are, they're basically when you do a Google search, and if you're a service business, normally you've got the map pack up here and you've got organic listings underneath it. What Google Guaranteed Ads are, they go above the map and they get a little green check mark. Like they look very official, like basically Google has signed off on all these businesses as something that they endorse. So all I know is you have to go through a fairly rigorous background check to do this. Like they check out you as a business, make sure you're legit. They make sure that all of you have all the right paperwork in order, your license, bonded, all that stuff. And I think they check into your employees too if they're going to people's houses. They just want to make sure you're not bringing felons onto someone's property or anything like that. Once you pass that, you're eligible to show up in those ad spots at the top. Here's where it gets interesting. So basically, as I understand it, they only charge you when someone actually calls you from that ad, which is huge. And it's kind of an expensive charge. Like it depends on where you are and your niche. It can be like $20 a phone call, but if you know that you guys have a good track record of closing, because once they're on the phone with you, they're like this close for making a decision. They're not doing that in the beginning stages. So if you know that you close, even if it's 1 out of every 4 people on the phone, and you can afford, to spend $80 to acquire a new customer, I love this. So definitely look into it. I assume you say upcoming because maybe it's not rolled out everywhere yet. And I've actually heard less about it recently than I have about a year ago. So maybe they pulled it and it's coming back, but check into it. If you're a service, and by the way, it's only available for certain types of service businesses too. Like it's not for everything. I know it's like lawn care. I know you have a lawn business. So for that, it's definitely around. Okay. Next we have from Shava Consulting Lead Generation Strategies. As a service-based business, what marketing methods have helped you get the majority of your clients, and how do you break them down into percentages? So yeah, for me, it's almost exclusively through YouTube. I'm happy to say, like starting this channel was one of the best things I ever did for my business. And now it's gotten to a point where I don't even work with clients anymore. I'll do consulting, like hourly consulting. But other than that, I do not build websites. I do not run Facebook ads. I don't do any of that stuff. I sell I sell a paid program teaching small business owners how to create their own client generation website. So all this work, all this YouTube work has gotten me to a point where now I can sell that and it's scalable. So, but before I did that, and I was just doing services, it was still all through YouTube, basically. I would do helpful, weekly videos, and I would do some of these live videos, and then a certain percentage of people wanted to work with me. I still get people asking me on YouTube comments and stuff, hey, how can we work with you? And, I have to tell them, I have to pass them along to somebody else. But yeah, so for me, it's been YouTube. In the past, it was SEO. I used to do a lot of SEO work, and I got a lot of traction that way. But SEO has gotten harder. I'm not going to lie to you. It's definitely harder. But if there were no YouTube, that's probably what I would be focusing on, doing content marketing and just getting found through my website, blog posts, the podcast. And if there was no YouTube, I guess just videos that would live on my site or something like that. So hopefully that's helpful. So percentage-wise, I would say 95% YouTube, 5% my podcast, I would guess. Okay. Next up, we have from Party Favor Rentals. What's the best way to add city service pages, each city with their own landing page, or one dedicated landing page for all cities? Let me read that again. The best way to add city service pages, each city with their own landing page, yes, that one, or one dedicated landing page for all cities. No. So if you want to rank for multiple cities on Google My Business, the blanket statement I have to put down ahead of time, I always have to say this, you cannot really hope to rank in one location for many different cities in the maps, okay? What you can hope to rank for, even if you don't have multiple locations, I'm just going to use Chicago here for an example. I'm in Chicago. We've got Evanston, we've got Wilmette, we've got Winnetka. Like these are surrounding cities. If I'm in Chicago, I can't really rank in the map pack in Winnetka or Evanston unless there's like no competition that's there. What I could do is I could create landing pages for cities. Let's just say I'm a web design company still. Okay, so web design, Winnetka. I would make a city landing page for that with all the different signals on that page. You know, I would use the phrase web design in Winnetka. I would use that in an H1 tag on the top. I'd use that in header, subheaders around the page. I'd use it in the keywords around the site, in the content. I would put images there with the right alt text and name the image files, you know, web designer in Winnetka. And then I would put an embeddable Google map there too. And then I would do the same thing for every other city in the area that I wanted to rank for, okay? I don't have locations in all those cities, so I can't rank in the map, but I can rank in the organic listings underneath with that strategy. So yeah, you want to make a new page for each area. You know, and the big thing I'll say here too, what most people make a mistake with this in is they tend to treat these pages completely utilitarian, like they're just going to be seen by Google bots. No one's ever going to read them, and that's a mistake because think about it. If you're ranking for these pages and people are finding you through those pages, and then they just read like a bunch of SEO'd out nonsense, who's going to call you? Who's going to work with you? So you really need to treat these. Think of them like home pages almost. The tricky part is you need to reword everything from city to city because you can't just have all the duplicate content switching the city name around. So it takes a little bit of work, and for that reason, I generally recommend starting with your top 3 cities maybe, and then get those right, make all the content unique for each page. Then as you have time to add more cities based on the volume of how many people you work with in those cities, right? So you got to go in the right order of what makes the most sense. So hopefully that helps. All right. And obviously, if you're here and you have a question, go ahead and leave it in the comment section over to the side, and I will get to it. I'm going to try to run about 90 minutes here, so we're about 20 minutes in now. All right. Next, we have Mike Sacco. Hey, Mike. He says, smart ads versus DIY search ads for Google My Business locations. Yeah, I don't ever like smart ads. I gotta be honest with you. Anytime an ad platform makes it too easy to run ads, they're generally not any good because you haven't done the work to really, like, it is such an art and a science altogether to try to get the right ad to the right person. It's like the equivalent of boosting posts on Facebook, right? Like everyone tells you don't do that because they're not going to the right people. And this is why people say ads are a waste of money because they go for those really low-hanging fruit types. So don't do the smart ads, do DIY. And there's a few ways you can go here, right? The way I recommend is go on YouTube, get the information, get enough information to be dangerous with it, right? Know what you're doing enough, but then you probably want to hire someone who's actually an expert at it because, you know, in theory, that expert is going to make those ads perform on such a level better than you could that they'll justify their cost and they'll pay for themselves quite quickly. So definitely do that. Because there's a lot of Google ads, there's a lot of things that can go right or wrong. So you definitely want to put in the work. Yeah, I've just heard from smart ads that they don't work out very well for most people. Okay, another from Random Dude. Is there a way to be one of the first results on Google My Business without listing your address? In theory, you know, it's one of those things that they say it makes no difference. I had Darren Shaw from Whitespark on who said that makes no difference. So and I don't want to say he's wrong, he's the expert, but I mean, we've seen so much anecdotal evidence to the contrary on that. So the way I look at it is whenever you list your address, you're giving yourself a better chance of being found. But you have to weigh that against, do you want your address out there? Specifically if you work from home and you don't want random people coming by your house, you got to weigh it out. I'm not telling you to do it if it makes you feel unsafe. If you feel unsafe putting your address out there, don't do it. But if you want to give yourself the best possible chance of ranking, it still seems to be the case that having your address there helps. So, and there are ways too of like, Google says they don't want you to get PO boxes or any of that kind of stuff, but I've still heard that can work. It's a little riskier, but it can still work. So think about that as a possible plan B if you don't want to give out your address. Okay, from Arslan Afal, he says, when using lookalike audiences, should I narrow down targeting, at least male or female, or don't touch it at all? Okay, so that's a good question. And that's going to take a little bit of nuance, but generally speaking, what a lookalike audience does is it takes care of most of that for you. Unless you have a very specific niche that you know that the lookalike audience won't really account for or won't account for it well enough, I would always start with letting the lookalike audience just do its thing, because Facebook is really smart. Like, their algorithm is insanely smart. So in my experience, the thing that's been most challenging for me with the lookalike audiences is figuring out which particular lookalike performs the best for me. So, excuse me, sorry. For instance, I have the choice between a small lookalike, like, because you use a source audience, a source custom audience when you make a lookalike. So I have a small list of people who've actually bought my paid program. That would be like the holy grail of lookalike audiences for me to use. The problem is, while it's big enough for Facebook to technically use it, it's over 100 people, because you have to have over 100 people in a single country on a list for it to work. There's technically enough people, but in my experience, it's too small of a list really for Facebook to do a great job matching it, like finding all the similar characteristics and all that stuff. So what I did then is I took a step back. It's like, okay, now how about if I just make it look like based on people who've been to the sales page for my course and trying that out. And that still didn't perform great. So now I've taken a step back again, and now I'm testing just people who've signed up for my masterclass, basically. So it's a much bigger group of people. It's a much less targeted group of people. So it's a matter of testing out all those different points in your funnel and creating separate lookalikes and seeing what works best. But I wouldn't probably take out males from females, because the thing is, Facebook will see, okay, this lookalike, this custom audience is like 80% female, so that's what we're gonna go with. That's what we're gonna mostly show it to, because that's one of the things they'll clue into pretty quickly. So always let a lookalike do its thing first before you tweak it after that. Okay, now we've got from Chase Davis. Hey Chase, he says, where's the best places to gain an in-depth knowledge of digital marketing besides YouTube? Besides YouTube, I learned a lot on podcasts, honestly. Like, if you're looking for digital marketing, listen to like Rick Mulready's got a great show, mostly about Facebook ads. Amy Porterfield's is great. It's a little kind of beginner level. It's tactical, but it'll give you some good ideas. And then social media marketing talk show is good too. There's a podcast for every little, like, you can find video marketing, you can find Facebook ads, you can find it all with podcasts. And for me, that's how I learned just about everything I know, because I'd walk the dog, I'd drive, and just kind of fill my head with all that knowledge. So let me know if you find a good one you like. Okay, next one is from Hagap Karakashian. SEO question. Moving a site to a different platform, URLs will change, HTTP to HTTPS, secure. How not to lose traffic and rankings in Google. So yeah, basically I assume you don't mean your domain name will change. So in any case, even if that is changing, what you need to do, this is slightly technical for everybody watching, but to make it simple, let's say you've got your homepage yeah, let's just say homepage to homepage to make it simple. You've got mysite.com and then mynewsite.com over here. The really simple thing to do is you keep the old URL. You have to keep it for a while. You put a 301 redirect on your old page, bringing it to the new page. That's going to preserve about 95% of the SEO power, meaning any links that link to that first page, 95 of those links will kind of transfer over to the new page. And then if you've got a about us page over here, and you've got an about us page over here, 301 redirect, page to page to page. So that's what you got to do. It's a little tedious, but that's how you can preserve almost all that power. So it's not the hardest thing in the world. Google is pretty smart about that these days. 10 years ago, it would have been much more difficult. Okay, let's see what we get from David Tennies. Hey, he says, ever worked with financial services companies? Any particular strategies that have worked for companies like that? So, I mean, that's a big kind of broad category. Like, yeah, I have. I mean, some have been selling an online course, some have been selling services. So basically, what I always recommend for something like that is what you want to do is get people in with a lead magnet. Okay, so, and that goes for almost any service business too. So you want to use whatever you can in terms of your marketing dollars, not to advertise your service or your course because people don't know you yet. Like if they're just seeing you on a Facebook ad, they're not pulling out their credit card based on an ad in a sales page. They need to get warmed up to you. They need to see what you can offer them. So do a lead magnet, but it's got to be like a well thought out lead magnet too. Like it can't just be sign up for our newsletter or, a guide to investing, right? It has to be very specific, very actionable. Could be like a checklist, could be a resource file of like all your curated resources that you recommend for financial planning, or it could be a challenge. It's like a 5-day challenge of getting your finances in order, or like a 30-day challenge, whatever's more realistic, or a quiz can work really well too. So you get people in on that, and then you've got their email address. So now you keep sending them, one helpful email a week until it's time for them to feel confident to convert. So, but here's the catch though, it's got to be helpful, actionable content, not weekly sales emails of saying, hey, give us a call. We'd love to talk to you about, what we can do for you. That's not going to go over very well. Think of these as advice or tips. And then every fourth email, you can now be a little more promotional and you can tell them like, hey, by the way, we can help you even further if you get on the phone with us or whatever it is you offer. So that's what I recommend. Come up with a great lead magnet. And here's the thing is, the title of the lead magnet is like the most important thing. Make it super actionable, super compelling that people like something that promises a transformation, not information, right? This thing is not just going to fill their head with more knowledge, it's going to get them closer to a result. And if you can craft a title like that, it's going to be much more likely to get people on your list and in your world. So yeah, hopefully that helps. Okay, follow-up question from Random Dude. Are forum backlinks powerful at all? They can be, but generally speaking, I think most forum links are pretty much no follow. So for a crash course for anyone who doesn't know, there's basically two types of backlinks out there. The first type is the one you want, where it's basically it passes SEO power from one site to another. It counts as a vote for your site essentially. But generally in forums, like I don't know why people spam my YouTube, or not just mine, they spam YouTube channels all the time with like spammy comments. Those are no follow links. Like you get nothing out of that. So, although I would say like the jury's still out on like, it's not nothing, but it's very small. So there's definitely better ways of getting backlinks out there. I wouldn't waste your time with the really like spammy stuff like that. Okay. The next one is from John Kaz. He says, is it possible to make successful Google ads without spending thousands of dollars? I mean, if I spend $1,000 on Facebook ads, I'll have much better results than if I spend $1,000 on Google ads. I don't know if that's a statement you're saying or if that's a question. It's different for every kind of business, John. So for me, for my paid course, I've experimented with Facebook ads and I'm trying YouTube ads. For me, YouTube ads are a much more one-to-one thing because it's a video course. People are watching video. It makes more sense. So it really depends on what it is you're offering. And if you're saying, is it possible to be successful without spending thousands of dollars? That's really kind of a mindset shift here, right? Because sometimes you have to spend $1,000 to make $2,000. So if your biggest goal of advertising is not to spend any money, that's really kind of defeating the purpose of advertising. The purpose is to make money, meaning once I dial these ads in and I know that I'm spending, for every dollar I spend, I get $5 back, then you'd want to spend as much as possible, right? So it's really more about testing at first. And I would definitely recommend spending at least $1,000 in that first month to test. If you don't spend that much, the data you get back is not going to be very conclusive because you just don't have enough of a data set to draw from. So I always recommend putting aside at least $1,000 to test your ads. And if you're not ready to do that, then I don't know what to say. It's part of being in business is you gotta get the word out there. You gotta advertise and you have to do it smartly. So I would say the same thing I said to the other question before. Learn enough about this just on YouTube and podcasts to be dangerous with it. Know your stuff enough and try maybe a $30 campaign spending $30 for maybe 3 days in a row. That's not going to work so well in Facebook ads because Facebook ads deal with an algorithm, whereas Google ads, it's more of a search based. It's like people are searching for this, so it's going to show your ads to those people versus no one's searching for this on Facebook. So Facebook has to figure out who are we going to show this ad to. It takes more than 3 days for them to figure it out. And for Facebook ads, I would say give it about a week. Having said that, watch your numbers, and if you feel in your gut that this is not going well after a few days, like your costs are just astronomical, then pull the plug on it. But generally, you want to give Facebook ads a few days to start dialing in the results, and then you'll have a better sense of it. But don't think of it as trying to spend as little money on ads as possible. Think about it as trying to get your return on ad spend as high as possible. It's a little bit of a mindset shift that really makes a big difference. Okay, next one is from Sheldon McKay. Hey, Sheldon. He says, is it harder to get to lookalike audiences when running ads locally since the audience size is much smaller? Yeah, that's a thing. When you're doing local ads, so think about it this way, because lookalike audiences are based on a country. So if I've got a list of people who have already bought my thing, and say, Facebook, find me 1% of the population that's as close to these people as possible in the whole US. They come back with like about 2 million people. They're all over the country, unless one of the things that they found that makes them all similar is like maybe they only live in cities, or they don't have to be evenly spread, but let's just say they are. And let's say you're in, I don't know, let's say you're in Tennessee, okay? You sell statewide. So what that's going to do is, what you could do is take that lookalike for the entire US and then layer Tennessee on top of it. So it's that whole, 2 million people, but now it's really narrowed down to only the people in Tennessee that are in that group. So that can bottleneck things. You could try it, but I would say if you're in a really small area, like if you're in a small town, if you're like let's say you run a tanning salon or something in a suburb somewhere, you're probably just going to want to run a reach campaign. But if you're in New York City, where there's like 8 million people, now you can afford to be a little more targeted, right? So you can try that lookalike audience thing. It really depends on how big your market is and how small of that pie your area is in relation to that 2 million people that Facebook has picked for you in the whole country. I hope that makes sense. It makes sense in my head, but I guess it depends on how much you know about it to begin with. But yeah, try that, and then just try doing. So if you can tell me, Sheldon, if you can put in there, and I'll try to get to it later. Let me know what your target market is. Like, what is it? A city? Is it a small city? Is it a state? let me know and I can maybe tailor my answer a little bit better for you. Okay. Next question is from Mohammed. He says, what's the best and cheapest way to rebrand our online business, including website and social media accounts? The best and cheapest way to rebrand our online business, including website and social media accounts. Yeah, I mean, when we're talking about rebranding, like, I don't know. I mean, I guess the cheapest way would be to do it yourself. That's not always the best way to do it. Yeah, I don't. Best and cheapest don't go together, Mohammed. Usually, so what I would say is do your research on what you want your brand to feel like, okay, and then try to find a designer who can. But come to them with some ideas of your own. But don't be married to those ideas because you want to pay a designer for their ideas. So try to find someone who's in your budget who can get you close to where you want to be. So yeah, sorry, that's not quite the marketing question that I'm used to answering. So, okay. Next one is from Rasmus. What's the difference between Google Tag Manager and Analytics? Yeah, that's going to be a little over the head for this channel. We don't really get into Google Tag Manager and all that stuff. But it's a way of organizing all of your pixels and all that stuff on your website. That's not what I generally talk about on this channel because I think we have a little bit more of a beginner level audience here. So I think that would be a little in the weeds for most people. Okay, next we have from Sarah Hendricks. Is it bad to have a copy if your blog is posted on another site? Does it hurt your search result? Okay, so I think what you're saying, Sarah, is maybe someone's copied your blog post and put it on their own website. It's super annoying. That used to happen to me a lot. I used to have like people copying my entire website and putting it on their own. So basically what I would do is I would reach out to them and say, hey, cut it out. You've been reported, basically. But here's the thing. It doesn't really hurt you necessarily because people used to think there was a thing called a duplicate content penalty. People used to say, oh, if Google sees another version of this, both sites are blacklisted or they're demoted or something like that. Not the case. What it really is as long as your post was the first one Google found, any extra instance of that, they're going to basically attribute it to you. And that other instance of it on the copycat site, that's just not going to rank for anything. They're not going to count that page for anything. So, you can get loud with them if you want to. I know it'd bother me, so I'd still probably reach out and say, hey, let's not copy my content, please. But then you should rest assured knowing, though, that as long as Google found yours first, theirs isn't going to count for anything, and yours is going to get all the credit. So you should be fine. Okay, next is from John Kaz. It's a follow-up question. What changes can I do to pixels on Ad Manager to avoid as much as possible negative results of the new iOS update? Great question. I did a whole live video with Matt Johnston. I want you to watch that video after this one. He did a much better job answering that than I ever could. It was a lot of information for me, and I still haven't wrapped my head around this whole iOS privacy thing. Like, I get so much conflicting information about it, and I don't really run a lot of Facebook ads. So, and by the way, and none of this has really taken effect yet. It's, I guess, taking effect, they're saying now, end of March. So watch that video, please. It's called like Apple versus Facebook ads or something. So watch that one. That's going to give you a really good answer to that. It's like an hour-long video. It will answer all of your questions, trust me. Okay, from Rami, we have a website that I built a month ago has a 1% domain authority. Is that happening due to the fact that it's new? Yes, it is. Or something could be wrong in my work. And how much time does it usually take to get crawled by Google bots? So that's a separate question. It's probably, if you built it a month ago, it should have been already crawled. But first of all, domain authority isn't really a thing. It's basically a measurement stick that we can like say, okay, so this website has this much of a chance of being ranked, but it's not like Google is assigning domain authority to websites. So know that. But it really is a lot about age of website. So if you have a brand new site, your domain authority is going to be extremely low. What you need to do is start building backlinks, start creating pages with the right structure, with basically coming up with the right keyword phrases you want to rank for on your different pages, your different service pages, your different blog posts if you have those. Just do everything right and build the backlinks. Google will find it, especially if you have backlinks, because now you've got, because what they do is they crawl around the web, and as soon as they get to a page with a link back to you, they follow that link over and they find your page. So that's really what I would recommend doing. Just stay in your lane, keep your head down, get everything built up, and it takes a little bit of time. You know, it's just one of those things. So I wish there was a shortcut I could give you. Unfortunately, there's not. Okay. Next one is from Business Masters. Can you target the admins of specific Facebook business pages and then build a lookalike audience from it? No. So you can't build you can only build lookalike audiences from basically remarketing. So anyone who's been to a certain page on your website, or anyone who's interacted with your Facebook page or watched a video or your Instagram, what you can't do is like, because Facebook is not really going to show you information of their users. That's a big misconception, I think. And it's a reason why people think Facebook is so evil, I think they think that they're like selling their users' data to you or something. They're not doing that. So what you can do, so you're saying specific Facebook business page admins. I don't know about specific ones, but you can always target admins of business pages on Facebook. That's a targeting option they give you. They don't give you that information. It's like they give you that list of here's everyone's names and addresses. No, they just show your ad to those people because they know who they are. From then, what you could do is you could run some kind of a just content piece ad, like basically a video, that the title of it would be geared especially to the people that are perfect for you. And then anyone who watches any part of that, like even if it's 3 seconds, you retarget any of those people. You create a custom audience of those people, and then you can make a lookalike audience of that. Okay. If you're creating a lookalike, I might make that a little harder. Like I might make that more of like, you have to watch 25% of that video, or a minute of that video, or figure out the timing of it to where that's really a good audience for you. Then create the lookalike that way. That's how I would probably approach something like that. All right. From JC Fernandez, he says, how would you target people who are looking for event services like catering, DJ services on Facebook? Okay, so I'm not super up on what they let you target anymore. They used to like have all those things, like people who are looking for event, like, okay, so that's a really good question. Anyone who's looking for catering, those are those like, are you a wedding service provider? Because you can target people based on if they're engaged or if they're planning a big event or something like that. So I would look into that. Go in the Google Ad Manager, Audience Manager, and look up like events and see what, or like life events. I think there's probably some targeting for you in there, but it changes all the time. And I don't really know what's in there for you right now, unfortunately, off the top of my head. Okay. Next one is from Shava Consulting. If you were to go back to when you were starting your YouTube channel, knowing what you know now, I love questions like this, what advice would you give yourself to better attract and grow an audience on YouTube? Love that. So this is my best YouTube advice. I give it whenever anyone asks. I paid a lot of money for this advice. I hired a consulting place. Shout out to them, Video Creators, Tim Schmoyer. They know their stuff. The best advice they gave me was you need to, two things. You basically need to keep people on YouTube longer, and YouTube will reward you if you do that. So there's 2 mistakes people make. The first one is they try to sell their thing on every video, right? That would be like if every video I ended up saying, and by the way, sign up for my masterclass. But you'll notice I don't do that, not in every video. I do that on about every 4th video. The other 3, I always segue very naturally into another video that I want you to watch now, because what you want to do is get people to keep watching your videos. So whenever you plan a new video, always think of the other videos you have in your library and say, what would be the next logical video for them to watch after they've watched this one? Then you put it in your outline or your script, however you do it, and you basically, you use no wrap-up language. That's my second tip. Because what people will do is they'll say, all right, guys, well, hope that was helpful. Hope you enjoyed my 5 tips on the... As soon as they hear that, they know it's over and they're gone. Rather than do that, say, okay, so now that you know this, I've got another video for you that's going to help you get even further to your goal. Just click right up here to watch that. And so basically, notice how I never stopped the flow. I just basically went into the next one almost as if it was like the next tip. So those are my 2 best pieces of advice. Use no wrap-up language and always get them to watch another video. Only on every 4th video do you want to send it back to your website for anything. All right. Let's see. Next one is from Party Favor Event Rentals. How often do you recommend we request indexing on Google Search Console? Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't have to ever request indexing anymore. Like Google know if you make changes, Google's crawling the web. Like they find those changes. If they're not, that means you probably don't have enough backlinks built up to your site. So you need to work on that. You just need to have enough other websites linking to yours and they'll find it naturally. I don't ever request anything like that and I haven't in a very long time. Okay, next one is from Chase M. Would cycling through 3 sets of copy on your website once a week improve your SEO? Would Google notice this? Cycling through 3 sets of copy on your website. So basically what you're saying is changing your website copy 3 times in a week. I wouldn't do that. What I would do is if there are certain pages that are important to, conversions, like your sales pages, you might want to do slight A/B tests from time to time, like change the headline, but you want to change like one thing at a time to know what's working best. You don't want to just change your whole page 3 times in a week. That's not, first of all, Google's not going to care about that. That would be more for sales related, like, getting conversions, not SEO related stuff. So yeah, I don't think that's a great tactic. I would just get your pages how you want them, add new pages, right? Add new blog posts to rank for new keywords. But yeah, I don't think you need to do that at all. I think that's kind of, that would be kind of a waste of time, I would think. All right. So another one from Hagap. What are your thoughts on Pinterest ads? So yeah, I think Pinterest ads can work very well if you're in the right niche for them. So obviously Pinterest is kind of it's generally more for B2C, business to consumer. It's not really great for B2B businesses. And generally speaking, if it's the kind of thing that people are searching on Pinterest, if you have a visual business, if you're like an interior designer, that kind of thing, if you're a kitchen remodeler or anything like that, those are just 2 interior design examples. But you know what I mean? If what you do is visual and it's like a transformation of some kind, I think it's great. I think it's definitely worth trying because I think they're definitely much cheaper than like Facebook ads or something. So they're definitely an untapped resource, but they're not for everybody. You might have a hard time doing that if you're trying to like sell plumbing services or something like that. So if you think you're a natural fit, and I think you will have a good sense of that. Here's a good tip. Go into Pinterest, see if there's a lot of pins for exactly what you do, and then you can see if that works out. Okay. Let's see. So the next one is from Dustin Miller. Hey, Dustin. I've been blogging since 2012 and podcasting since 2017, but both had gotten the SEO reset as I had to move tools. Redirects wouldn't really work. How can I get ranked well again? Both had gotten the SEO reset as I had to move tools. Yeah, that's kind of without knowing the specific reason for that, I'm not really sure. I don't know why redirects wouldn't work. Yeah, Dustin, that's the kind of question I would need to really dig deeper into. I wouldn't want to give you just advice off the top of my head with that because I don't really know the specifics. If you can give me more specifics of why the redirects wouldn't work, maybe I can get back to it. Sorry, Siddharth, I've got a little bit of I've got someone disgruntled here. You just skipped my question. I've been waiting 30 minutes to get answered. Here it is. I got you, Siddharth. Relax. My Facebook ads got 5 sales. Product sells for 50 on the second day, profitable on an ABO campaign, 50 per day, but then the result completely tanked on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th days. What do I do? I got 5 sales, product sells for 50. Yeah, I mean, these are the kinds of questions that I would need to see. That's a very specific question to you. Like, I don't know exactly what your specifics are there, so I don't know what to tell you. I think you need to possibly check your targeting and test different targeting methods, because what can happen is sometimes you'll exhaust like the best people in the first few days, and then Facebook is kind of scrambling to, so they prioritize who they're going to show your ads to, basically, based on the objective you have. So if you want to sell more products and that's your objective, they're going to show your ad to the people first. They're going to front load it to the people who they think are most likely to buy the product. So then after that, it's like diminishing returns. So you need to figure out targeting that's going to be a little more evergreen for you that way. All right, moving along to the next question here. Let's see. From Lambogis. Any tips on how to write converting, engaging newsletters? So yeah, so newsletter, I would say let's steer away from the term newsletters. No one wants a newsletter. No one wants like a weekly update of how things are going for your company. I think we're just talking semantics though. What you want to do is you want to send out weekly helpful content, like action items, tips, advice, that kind of thing. So what you need to do is, I wouldn't even think of those as being high converting, unless you're talking about the conversion being getting them back to your website or to watch your video or listen to your podcast. So in that case, all you need to do is just tell them what's in it for them. Super easy. Just tell them why they would want to listen to your podcast or why they'd want to read your article. Here are the 3 things you're going to learn, and be a little vague about it. Have a little curiosity behind it, right? Like, let them know, like, you're going to learn this little known tip that's known to double, whatever it is. So when we're talking about conversions in this context, that's what we're talking about, getting them to consume your content. Newsletters, like a weekly newsletter, trying to get them to get on a sales call with you, that's not generally going to work out as well. Warm them up, let them see you as the expert, and then every 4th email you can be a little more, going in for the sale. And by then, they're much more likely to want to work with you because they've been getting such great advice from you this whole time. Okay, let's see. We got a follow-up from Sheldon. Hey, Sheldon. This is from the lookalike audience question from before. He says, I'd say audience size is around 1 million from Edmonton and running ads for a hair salon. Oh yeah, if you're running ads for a hair salon, that's a service everyone needs, right? I would do reach. And they actually do a pretty good job of knowing like what kinds of people are going to prioritize. But reach, they try to get almost everybody. So maybe if you've got enough people, if you've got 1 million, maybe go for a conversion in that case. Target if you're, sorry if I'm sounding sexist here, but if it's a salon, maybe it's more women than men. Maybe you target it more to women, because that's the thing too. Like, if you're running it equally to men and women, and you're going to spend possibly way more on getting a conversion from a man than from a woman. So just know your numbers. I would just do a conversion campaign with just everyone in Alberta at that point. Right ages, right gender, if that's necessary. Okay. Next one is from Party Go Round. We have a party rental company, and we send out an email about 11 months after their event to get them to book again, such as for a birthday party. How many emails and when should we send? Yeah, it's a great question. So the thing is, I would probably not wait 11 months to send them an email, because by then, and true, they've already been in, so they kind of remember who you are. But I would send out periodic emails about, I don't know, maybe like every 3 months for some kind of like rotating offer. Like have a certain set of offers that you're going to give these people, like whether it's 20% off or something, do it like 3 months apart so that they remember you to some degree, because they may have other events. It's not like people have multiple birthday parties in their families, or they have, you know, I, I don't know what kinds of services you provide a party around, but maybe it's like different things for like anniversary parties or engagement parties or whatever. So yeah, do it every 3 months, stay in the top of their mind. And then when it comes back time for the 11 months, I would do maybe like one email a week. So like at 11 months out, that's the first email, then another one a week later, then another one a week later. And each of those emails should ideally hit on a different angle or hook. So the first one is basically maybe giving them a discount if you lock it in now. The next one is maybe what's changed this year, what's new and different about your offerings. And then maybe the next one's like, here's what we recommend for you and for your particular event. I don't know, whatever it is. Just don't make each email say the exact same thing is what my point is. Hit up on different things that might be appealing for different people. Generally works the best. Okay. Next we have from Derek Horsberg. I've purchased Listing Pro, a service website. Have you had any experience with this program, and if so, your thoughts? I'm sorry I haven't. I hope you haven't been waiting long for that question. I've never heard of Listing Pro. I'm sorry, so I couldn't really tell you. All right. Next question is from Badis. He says, how to do marketing to sell websites to local business? Should I concentrate on SEO or Facebook ads? Yeah, what I would do is probably, I would probably concentrate on SEO if it's to local businesses, and then I would maybe LinkedIn as well. Okay, from Sarah Havens Photography. Blog posts. How much does it hurt my SEO if I delete a lot of old blog posts, content's not representing my brand anymore? Actually, not a whole lot. Like what I would probably do, Sarah, is go on your analytics and see if any of those that you want to delete are actually bringing in a lot of traffic. Just as due diligence, just see. Because if one is bringing in a lot of traffic and it still might be semi-relevant, you may not want to delete it. But if it's not bringing in any SEO, because Google doesn't really just reward a website for having a lot of pages. In fact, it can be the opposite. So do your research there, figure out what's bringing in what, and then maybe there's some you can kind of slightly retrofit to make a little more relevant to what you're doing now, especially if it's getting some good traction. If there's a way to just kind of rewrite something, but maintain some of that SEO juice it already has, that might be the way to go. But generally speaking, it's okay to delete pages that don't represent your company anymore. In fact, if these are pages that are confusing Google about what it is you do, then you're probably better off not having them, because you won't always want Google to know exactly what kind of company you are, right? So think about it that way. Okay, let's see, from Debbie Schwab, sorry. I'm doing terrible with pronouncing y'all's names today. Sorry about that. What do you think about banner exchanges? So I assume that means like display banners on people's websites. I think it's fine. If it gets the word out, I think there's a lot of display blindness, like banner blindness these days. If something looks like an ad, people tend to tune it out. So I wouldn't put a whole lot of time or effort into it, but you can try it and see how it works. Especially if it's an exchange and you're just kind of swapping them out. No one's paying money. It might be worth it. But you got to keep in mind too, does this now make your website look like a little spammier for having ads on it? That may hurt your conversion rates. Alrighty. Next one is from William Reed. I offer software as a service on my homepage. What's the best way to display my call to action, FAQs, and contact forms after my pricing table? Okay, so that's two different statements. I offer software as a service. So on my homepage, what's the best way to display my call to action, FAQs, and contact forms? Okay, so basically, William, your homepage, I would do, so the top has to be that hero section that I always talk about. Call to action goes there. Call to action goes in the header navigation bar, top right, okay? Persistent, as people scroll down, it's always there, ready to go. Underneath that, you want to have your benefits section. You didn't mention that here. You want to have your, so I would do pricing probably if it's a SaaS product. I would do your FAQs under that probably. And then contact forms, I don't know if I would have that on your homepage. You can. That's generally down at the bottom. That's like, because think about it, people are going down, 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 down. The further down they go, in theory, the closer they are to actually filling out that form. So that's why I always put that at the bottom, not at the top. At the top, it's too early to ask for them to fill that out. So that would be the flow I would recommend for you. Okay, from Devin Bradwell. Is email marketing really as effective as some people say? Yes, email marketing is like, it's my favorite because it's basically, it's a one-to-one relationship and you own your list, right? So you put out a great piece of content, a lead magnet, you get them on your list. Now you've got permission to further your relationship with these people. So that's why it's so effective. What I don't want you to think about it as is email marketing as sales pitch, sales pitch, sales pitch, email, email, email. That's not what it is. People are going to unsubscribe. They're going to mark it as spam, and I don't want that for you. So again, I said this earlier, you want to think of email marketing as 3 to 1. 3 helpful emails to 1 more, direct pitch kind of email. And if you follow that rule, you're going to build up a lot of goodwill. Yes, sure, some people are going to be sick of hearing from you, but those aren't your customers. They're going to unsubscribe, and it's fine. In fact, you want people to unsubscribe. Like, I remember I used to get weird because I used to get the notifications whenever I'd get an unsubscribe, and it was like, that sucks. But no, now it's like I welcome it because that means that's one less person I have to pay for on my plan. And it's like, you want to keep your list clean because the more people that are kind of disgruntled with your emails, the worse your delivery rates are going to be. So you want to keep it clean. But yeah, so basically the stat is basically for every dollar you spend on email marketing, you get $44 back, which is pretty great. You don't get that from Facebook ads, because it's a more personal method of communication, and people do still check their emails. So I love it. Okay, next one is from Mom Van Up. Do I need anything other than Opt-in Monster and MailerLite to get a functional lead magnet to start building an email list? So I've heard of those specific products. I don't use those specific products. So basically, all you need is you need a page where all that magic's going to happen. That can be any kind of website. And then you need a lead form that then communicates with your CRM or your customer relationship manager. So for me, I use Drip. A lot of people use MailChimp. So all you need is a form. I use WordPress and Elementor. Within Elementor, you've got built-in functionality to make a form, and then you connect it with your MailChimp or your Drip or your ActiveCampaign, or looks like you've got MailerLite here. I don't know if that one communicates with Elementor, but if it communicates with Opt-in Monster, I think you've got all you need. You just need to make sure that it's set up to where when they fill out the form, it auto triggers that delivery, because otherwise what you don't want to have happen is you just get all these notifications and then you have to manually email your thing out. So I don't think anyone's doing it that way these days anymore, though. All right. Next one is from Amazon Shopper. Do you know of any tools that work that can be used for backlinks? I don't think of backlinks with tools. I mean, backlinking is a very manual process, and that's why I recommend outsourcing it generally. So unfortunately, no, I don't have any tools for you. I have a recommendation of a service. I always recommend the Hoth. I think they do good work, and it's transparent, and they work with any budget. So it's and it's HOTH, thehoth.com. All right, how are we doing on time? Okay, so we got about 20 more minutes here. And I've got about 33% on my battery, so we'll keep going until we can go no more. All right, so we have California Type Foundry says, what would you consider a good opt-in rate on a lead magnet where you know you have something reasonably attractive? So the opt-in rate, what I think we're talking about here then is people who come to the page, the opt-in page, versus those people, like what percentage of those people that get to your page actually opt in for it. Generally, I like to see about 40% or more on that. I think industry standard, they say 25% is good, but I like to see 40% because especially when that's what the whole page is about. If we're talking about it's just your homepage and this is just one of many things you're offering on your homepage, it's obviously going to be less. But if your people are going directly to your lead magnet page based on an ad or something, they've gone there with the intention of finding out about that lead magnet, you generally want about 40%. And if you don't have that, there's a little bit of work to do to get there. So the title of it has to be great. You want to give them a few solid benefits of what they're going to be able to accomplish with that lead magnet. And that's the key. Don't tell them what they're going to learn. Tell them what they're going to accomplish as a result of it. And that should definitely up your game for sure. Okay. From Stigs, does deleting content on your blog improve link juice, or should I keep every post forever? Yeah, this is similar to the question I just answered. So deleting content on its own doesn't improve it. Deleting content or keeping content on its own doesn't help or hurt. It's a matter of deleting stuff that hurts and adding stuff that helps, right? And if something's hurting, take it away. And if something, just be smart about figuring out what posts are actually driving traffic and which aren't. And in the case of our last question, if these are articles that have nothing to do with what you do as a business, that's confusing Google, which is hurting your SEO power in the long run. So think about it like that. Okay, from Ash Rosie, what do you think or experience with extracting emails? Hold on, let me say this. What do you think or experience with extracting emails from highly targeted Facebook pages? Example, boxing pages that's private and very well taken care of. I'm not really understanding this question right now. Extracting email. Oh, okay. Extracting emails from Facebook pages and then creating a lookalike. Okay. Got it. So what you're saying is, what do I think of the idea of going around and, because some people on Facebook have their email addresses listed, taking those email addresses, then creating a lookalike audience from it. And that's a really touchy area because I think that's definitely against Facebook's terms of service. They do not want you uploading any list that's not like people having given you their email addresses. So basically what you're talking about is the same as like basically buying an email list and then creating a lookalike from that. I mean, technically Facebook doesn't know if you've done that or not, but it's still like, it's definitely against best practices. And I think there's better ways of doing it than that. Especially when you consider that most pages don't really have a visible email address anyway. So you're going to go through a lot of trouble to find enough of them to make a difference. So I think I would just target a boxing interest, right? Target boxing interest and, Facebook page admins. If you're looking for that kind of customer, I think you'll do much better. Okay, next one from Benjamin. Do you have any page of best practices for SEO, like a top 10 when designing a new website? Yeah, I've definitely got quite a few videos on SEO, Benjamin. I'm trying to think of like one that's like the best one, but I do have a lead magnet coming out soon. It's like the Ultimate Google Rankings Kickstart Kit. It's got all my best stuff in that. So it's coming out in a few weeks. So you might want to look out for that on my website. But for now, I would just look through my videos on SEO. I've definitely got a playlist. Watch as many of those as you can, and you're going to walk away with some good pointers for sure. Okay. Antoine Holman says, I've recently relocated to a new state. My business is now operating in 2 locations. Do I create a new Google My Business, or will a new landing page help with local SEO? So you recently relocated. So I'm assuming then you had another business listing, a new Google My Business listing in your old state. Now you've moved. I would just take that existing Google My Business, update it with your new information for your main location, then you add a secondary location on top of it. Not on top of it, like to the side of it. So basically you have 2 locations, but it's the same Google My Business account. That's generally how it's done. You don't make 2 separate accounts. And then each of those locations should have its own corresponding location page on your website. So make each one with the keywords for that city and what you do, and then each one would link to each specific page. I hope that makes sense. Okay. Let's see. The next one is from Marie. You talked about podcasts and YouTube videos helping your SEO. How do you link those to your website to make them helpful? So what I do, and basically, just so you know, so you're aware of my business model, I don't really rely on SEO anymore. So what I do on my website is not SEO'd out really the way it should be. So don't ever look at my website as like best practices for SEO. I know about SEO and I teach it, but I don't rely on SEO for my business. So what I would definitely recommend doing though is if you're doing YouTube, this works for YouTube or podcast. So actually they're different. So I'll talk about each. So for YouTube videos, what you'll do is you'll put it on YouTube, and that's where it's mostly going to be discovered because people are searching for videos there. But then you want that also to live on your website too. So you'd create a blog section, and it can either be all your video posts and your podcast posts and your blog posts are all mixed together in your blog section, or you can separate it out like I do. Basically, I have my video section and I have my podcast section. So I have the YouTube player embedded on each one. So for every video I do, I have a vlog post on my site with the same title. The video gets embedded in there, and then we have a short description of it. If you're really trying for SEO, I'd recommend doing a longer description for it. Don't do what I do there, because again, I don't rely on SEO. You'd want to basically treat that like a real blog post with that YouTube video being like icing on the cake. So people can either come there, they can watch the video for the information, or they can read the article for like the same information. What you probably don't want to just do a straight up transcript though, because that tends to not read very well as an article. So people will abandon it, and then Google will take note of that and see that people aren't really liking your page, and they'll stop recommending it. And the same thing you can do for podcasts is have like the podcast player on your page, and then have a article version of that there as well. So that's what I would do to make the best use of that. Okay, next one is from Grant Phelps. Hey Grant, can you advise me through the elements you would add into a footer for a service business with 2 locations? Yeah, so basically I would always think of having your primary location and a secondary location. So your entire site, generally speaking, should talk more about the primary location. And that'll be in embedded Google map in your footer. It'll have your business's name, address, and phone number, and preferably the working hours. Everything you filled in on Google My Business will be replicated exactly in your footer, including what I like to do too is I do the business name. Oh, and here's something too. Don't use just your logo for you need to type out your business name. That has to be actual text. And then underneath that, figure out what business categories you chose on Google My Business, like, landscaper or plumber, whatever that designation is exactly verbatim on Google My Business. Put that under your business name, then do your address and phone number. And then for your secondary location, you'll create a location specific page for that. And on that page, you're going to have the same looking footer, but that one's going to have the new information on that. And then from that Google My Business page, you will link to that specific location page. Hopefully that makes sense. That was a lot of information, but all right. So from City Rec GT, if you're doing lead generation, what's the best call to action to get some email on your homepage? You're doing lead generation, what's the best idea to get some email on your, okay. I assume you're talking about like a lead magnet. So yeah, on your homepage, what I like to do is I talk to the people who are ready to buy today. And then I talk to the people who are not ready yet. And then I have the email opt-in for them. So what I have is just right there on the homepage, I have like an email opt-in block. So if you go to wesmcdowell.com, you'll see that it's the free training masterclass there, where it's got basically the title of it, and then it has a little mini form. It's a very downscaled form. First name, email address, call to action button, get my free video, basically. So that's, you're making it very easy on them just to input their information and click the button. That's how I'd recommend doing it. And then the call to action button copy should actually say, get my free, checklist or guide or swipe file or challenge or whatever it is you're offering. Do it that way. That's how I recommend it. Okay, from another one from Business Masters. What steps do you take to optimize your YouTube videos when you upload them? So I'm not sure if you mean like post-production or like settings. I don't know exactly what you're referring to. I definitely always keep track of my keywords. I use a tool called Morning Fame to figure out what keywords I'm going to try to rank for. And then you put that in the title of the video, like as close to the beginning as possible. You then want to put that somewhere in the description, and you want to get the tags as well. So yeah, and the thumbnail is super important too. So don't sleep on that thumbnail. You want to make sure that's very, it stands out against everybody else's. Hire a designer to do that if you have to. That's going to be really key. And make sure that the title doesn't just have the keywords, but it has some kind of like something sexy about it, something that makes people really want to click it. Like not clickbaity, but something that offers like promises like secrets or tips or strategies, something like that. All right. We have a follow-up question from Shava Consulting. You mentioned most of your clients or customers have come through YouTube. So objectively, what value has your blog added to your business? It's basically a way for me to have people, I don't know, it's just honestly, like the jury's out on how much that's really helping my business. I happen to just have a team, so we have the bandwidth to put that all on my site, because ideally speaking, you want people to hang out on your website. You want to have a place where all your stuff is in one place, essentially. So for me, it's mostly that. It's not so much that people are finding me through the blog. Sorry, it's more just that I've given people one easy place to find all my stuff. Okay, next one is, and I think it's the last one we have so far, and it's from Peter Elias. Hey, Peter, how to build a funnel on Facebook. Okay, so that's a big question. What I would generally recommend is a few different layers of Facebook ads. So the first one would be a video on your topic that this video, like the title of it and the content of it, is going to be very interesting to your target client or your target customer. Then you retarget anyone who watches 3 seconds of that video with some more, it can be either more content to kind of warm them up to you, it can be more videos, it can be blog posts, but it's not really like going for a sales pitch yet, okay? This is like the most ideal sales funnel on Facebook. So you target those people who've watched 3 seconds of your first video. Then you target them with this new content, maybe a few different pieces over the course of 5 days. Then after that, now you target them for 5 days after that with your direct call to action ad. And that's generally going to be to sign up for your lead magnet, something like that. Or it could be to sign up for your service or to buy a product. Without knowing what exactly you do, it's hard for me to really give you advice there, but that's how I would do it. Okay, so let's see, we've got one. Oh, we've got another one here, okay. And we've got just a few more minutes here, guys. So if you have any last minute questions, get them in. I won't promise we're gonna go anywhere past 1:30 my time, but if you've got one, get it in. Okay, next one is from Rock and Roll CEO. Any hidden email marketing platform gems other than MailChimp, ActiveCampaign, etc. that you can recommend? Yeah, I like Drip. The reason I like it is because I've done a lot of testing, and with Drip, I tend to land in the primary inbox versus with MailChimp or what's the other one I tried? I tried ConvertKit. That went right to people's promotions tabs. So, you know, Drip is not the cheapest one out there, but it works for me. So I like Drip quite a bit, and it's pretty easy to use too. All right. We got another one from Lady. Lady Ruiz. Google Ads conversion reporting. How to add a column where in the added column it says book appointment isn't showing. Yeah, this is kind of an in the weeds question, Lady Ruiz. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to answer that without looking at exactly what we are looking at. From Joey Simon. Do you recommend a business with multi-locations in multiple cities, have a Facebook page for every location, or one large brand page? Honestly, Joey, I'm not a huge fan of like your Facebook business page is only going to get you so far. I would say like if you can get away with just having one Facebook business page, that's probably going to be fine. But then again, having multiple ones can be good for like your local SEO because you can have different links to your different pages and they can correspond. So I would say don't put too much effort into creating too many Facebook business pages because it's not really going to be that much of a high return on your effort. So if you've only got a few locations and they're more or less in the same general vicinity, maybe you just go with one. Okay. Next one from Diesel. Is there an easier way to implement double opt-in email confirmation in forms, especially Fluent Forms? I do not know Fluent Forms. So yeah, I don't know if there's an easier way to implement it. I mean, the whole point is that it's not supposed to be easy. The whole reason for double opt-in is to filter some people out by making it a little harder, right? You're basically saying, I want a smaller list of more highly engaged people versus making it super easy on you. Now we have a bigger list of people who are a little less into it. So it's not really about making it easier. And I'm sorry, I'm unfamiliar with Fluent Forms, so I couldn't tell you that. All right, guys. I think we are about done here. So anyway, hope you had a great, hope I got your question answered. I know there were a few I couldn't really get to. Some were a little in the weeds. But anyway, glad you're here. Glad we got to have this time together. I love being able to actually answer your questions in real time. So do want to let you guys know, I'm really excited about this. So my next live is going to be like the first Tuesday in March. I don't have the date in front of me, but I've got my Facebook ads guru, Amanda Bond, otherwise known, she goes as Bond, in the internet marketing world. We're going to be together on YouTube Live, talking all about Facebook lookalike audiences. So that's a really big topic, and it's a good topic. And we're going to talk it inside and out, so you're going to know exactly what to do to get a great lookalike audience and how to make it really perform the best for you. So look out for that, and I'll see you guys all next time. All right, so have a great week, and I hope you guys are doing well with your weather, and I'm gonna try to take the dog out again, and hopefully the people have shoveled enough to where you can actually walk in it this time. But anyway, guys, have a great rest of your week, and I'll talk to you later. Bye for now.